take a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Next, we are going to move on to recognitions and celebrations. This will be by Executive Director Milanes.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Davidson, fellow cabinet members, and guests both present and online. On behalf of the Litchfield Elementary School District, we proudly recognize Director of Technology Ruben Montoya and his outstanding team for their unwavering dedication and expertise. Through every challenge, they have persevered, providing reliable digital and technical support that empowers our teachers and staff and ultimately enhances the learning experience of every one of our students. From this coming school year's rollout of new computers for teachers and students to the installation of Promethean smart screens across all campuses, their efforts are transforming classrooms and instruction. Their implementation of the Duo two-factor authentication strengthens our district's cyber safety, and their pivotal role in preparing to the launch of our new website platform reflects their commitment and their innovation to accessibility. This, there's many things that they also do here. I mean, quick call to Brenda at the desk to fix a Google account. Their response time is really, with the small team that they have and the challenges that we undertake, is amazing, and I'm proud to be a team member of this department. Additionally, with the seamless integration and maintenance of our student information system, Energy, and the payment platforms, they are vital daily operations that we depend on, ensuring that our schools run smoothly and efficiently. Ruben Montoya and his team are the digital heartbeat of LASD 79. Today, we'd like to celebrate and thank them for their tireless work behind the scenes and their tremendous impact and the success of this district. So tonight we celebrate you, Ruben, and the entire IT team. Now, if I could invite you all, please come up and take a photo. All of our board members as well, too, please. And here we go. Here we go. All right. There you go. Thank you. Once again, thank you to our technology department.
Okay, we are going to move on to our next item. We have no public speakers, so our next item will be the adoption of the agenda and consideration of consent agenda. I'll go through and see if anybody has any items they wish to pull off. Mr. Mikes, did you have anything you want to pull off today?
None for me.
Mr. Owens?
I do not, thank you.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, I would like to pull off item 7.23, the student handbook and discipline matrix.
Okay, and Ms. Wallace?
No, none for me, thank you.
I do not have any either, so if someone would like to make a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented minus item 7.23.
I second.
Having a motion from Ms. Moran and a second from Mr. Owens, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we will move, this will now be 8.1, which will be the student handbook and discipline matrix. I will let Ms. Moran start that conversation.
Yes, I just wanted to remove this item to highlight that when we, the board and administration, talk about continuous improvement, we mean it. So in this item, there are some improvements to the discipline matrix specifically. So acknowledging that our systems can be improved, seeking feedback, and then utilizing that feedback to update and revise policy and procedure is exactly how we go from good to great. So I want to voice my appreciation of everyone who provided feedback and worked to improve the discipline matrix and its impact on student success. That's my only commentary with some praise.
Mr. Mikes, did you have any questions or comments about this item?
Nothing else for me.
Mr. Owens?
None for me, thanks.
Ms. Wallace?
No, thank you.
I didn't have any either, but I do appreciate all the work that's gone into the discipline matrix. So I'm glad to see that we're going to keep refining it as we need to, because as Ms. Moran said, that's the way that we get better always. So with that, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I move to approve item 8.1 as presented.
A second.
Having a motion from Ms. Moran and a second from Mr. Mikes, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Next, we are going to move on to item 9.1, which is the superintendent performance pay. This will be by Dr. Davidson.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, and community. No official presentation tonight. I just appreciate the conversation yesterday in executive session around my goals and our evaluation, and certainly look forward to additional feedback as we move into the next year. My request tonight would just be based on that feedback that the board consider a motion to approve the performance pay per my contract. And certainly I'll stand here for any questions that we may have.
Mr. Mikes, did you have any questions or comments?
No questions, just comments. We appreciate everything, all your hard work, definitely reflective in our decisions. So we appreciate it.
Mr. Owens?
Yeah, no questions. Just yesterday, I think we had a very thorough discussion as a board and, reviewed last year's performance and based on the goals that you set. I think it's definitely more than fair for your performance, and we're grateful for it and hopeful for just continued growth in the district. And, was this year 2, right? I think you've really hit stride, and we're just excited and happy to have you still. So thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Moran?
No questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions either. So if anybody would like to make a motion.
I move to approve the superintendent performance pay for 2024-2025.
I second.
Having a motion from Mr. Owens and a second from Ms. Wallace, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes?
Yay.
Mr. Owens?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
I'm also yay. Motion passes. We are moving right along.
Thank you.
Guys. This is great. Goal. Okay, next we are going to move on to discussion items. This will be survey information, and this will be Dr. Doozy.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, my admin cabinet, and our wonderful technology crew. Celebrating you tonight was super special. I am here to present our perception survey outcomes for the academic year of 2024-25. Before I get started, I do want to note that some of these surveys were taken in November of 2024, and that would be our staff, parent, and student engagement surveys, and our department surveys were completed in April 2025. So I've wrapped it all up into one presentation to bring to you tonight to share with you and the community what we're doing with this information, what we learned from it, and what the future looks like with this perception data. It is 40 slides. So I did include slides in here that I am not going to go into great detail, but know that if you do want me to go back and explain anything, please just stop me and I'm happy to do so. So this is aligned to our strategic plan. Oh, I guess I have to do this, huh? This is going to confuse me. So the strategic plan alignment with this, our surveys definitely give us feedback on how we're making sure our staff are ready and our students are ready, resources, and the relationships that we build with all of our stakeholders. No? So soliciting feedback from multiple stakeholders is a very important process as a district because it really allows us to make decisions to really increase the best customer service that we can for all the stakeholders that we provide a foundation of support for. The parent, family, and student engagement surveys not only were used as an admin cabinet to reflect on our practices and make improvements, but it's also important to note that the schools also use this survey data as an individual site based on their results to make improvements, to celebrate accomplishments, and to set up new action steps that they want to try to continuously improve. So as I stated at the beginning, the timeline of the surveys are aligned to how we did it last year, which we want to keep that continuity. So we're able to do a little test of perception in the fall, that first semester, and then also another perception assessment when we get into toward the end of the year, which is we do that through our department surveys. So first, I'll just do a quick review of our staff engagement survey results. Last year, if you remember, we considered it a baseline year for this data. So as we continue to build this presentation in years to come, we will always start with looking at that 23-24 year, which we had an end count participants of 974. And this year, we were really excited that we had 1,040. So upward trend of making sure we hear more voices. These are the individual questions on the survey that remain the same as last year. And I'm not going to go through each one, but you can see in the first column to the left, it shows you what our 2023 score was, average for that particular question on the survey, and then our 2024 outcome. I think there must be a little delay. There we go. So taking together all 20 questions, if I can get there, let's see. Altogether, you'll see our average for 2023 was 3.91, and 2024, we stayed steady at 3.92. As we're discussing these survey results, I do want to just remind all of us kind of what the scale was on these surveys. So for our student, staff, and caregiver surveys, 5 would indicate strongly agree, 4 would indicate agree, 3 would be neutral or average, 2 would be disagree, and 1 would strongly disagree. And I just wanted to note that as you interpret these results, what that score of 3.92 would mean is that overarching agreement to that, that perception of engagement based on all the questions that were answered. So on the survey, in addition to the quantitative data, there's also a qualitative part of the survey, which asks a couple open-ended questions. And one of them is what's working well, and one of them is what needs to be improved. And so in looking at a thematic analysis of all the survey results in their totality across all departments and schools, these are the major themes that stood out as our staff's perception on what's working well at Litchfield. So teamwork and collaboration, I added some just little notes to just clarify exactly what that means and give you a little context. Communication, leadership, work environment, and clarity of goals and expectations. Again, same thematic analysis technique, looking at the areas of needs improvement in those open-ended responses. Communication was actually when I listing these actually in the order of most frequent theme, by the way, too. So if that's helpful in interpreting all what this means. So communication, and again, I noted, give a little context because you'll notice communication is also what's working well. So that was more site level specific. The open-ended responses around communication were more around departments and sites across the organization versus within a school or a certain department. Resources. There were statements just around ESSER funds and not quite understanding why all that funding is not there and why we can't apply for more grants to get that funding back. And so it was really eye-opening to really see just maybe some communication we can do around that to build some understanding of why those ESSER funds are not here anymore and why we did have to make those cuts. Training and development, collaboration. Again, collaboration was also on the what's working well. As you notice, this was more about cross departments and cross the organization versus collaboration within a site or department. Technology, processes and procedures, recognition and appreciation, leadership and direction, and then special education support. All right, so parent and caregivers were also given the opportunity to give us their perception of how we were doing here at Litchfield. 2023-24, we surveyed 1,826. In 24-25, we surveyed 1,867. Again, these are each question showing you the comparison from 2023-2024. And then the total average score for our parent and caregiver, 4.18 was in 2023 with an increase of 4.25. So we were really happy with this increase, especially coming from our families. It's just really incredible to see all the great work our sites and schools are doing to really serve our parents, caregivers, and our students. And then again, open-ended question, that thematic analysis, what's working well. Staff and teachers was the most frequent theme. Lots of really positive praise, specifically for certain teachers and certain classified staff. It was really neat to read all those comments. Communication between school and home, academic support and curriculum, safety and security, programs and activities, community and environment, support services, and food and meals. And then that thematic analysis or what needs to be improved. Academic support, again, a theme in the comments here from families and caregivers stating, not really quite understanding why there were cuts done to campuses, that extra assistance, maybe that extra reading group their kiddo used to get, wasn't getting now. So just concerns with some of that loss of positions. Staff and teachers, which is interesting. They were number one on what's working well. This was actually more about responsiveness and struggling students. So just some comments about feeling that maybe we needed to do more for kids that were struggling. Communication, interesting enough, both sides of the perspective were seen, too frequent and too infrequent. And then extracurricular activities, parent involvement, facilities, specifically the highlights of that theme were our restrooms and our fields. And then safety was a very smallest theme, but I still kept it up here because it was relevant as far as the open-ended comments about bullying and threat incidents, just the concern around those activities on campuses. And then our student survey, which our 23 count was 6,430 and our 24-25 count was 5,934. We're gonna really bring it back to the drawing board with our leaders to find out exactly where the gap is because the children are with us. So I'm not quite sure why we didn't capture as many voices. But that is something that we did keep pushing it out and keep it open. So definitely something that we're gonna be problem solving for next year to capture more student voices.
I know the parents have to okay that they take the survey, so obviously they may not have filled out that form if
Yeah.
the voices are lower
Yeah.
there.
So again, this is a play-by-play for each question type, where we were in 2023 and 24. What's an interesting observation here is that we do have some signs in decline of perception from our student body. So you'll see that throughout each question type. It's not statistically significant in many areas, but still not trending in the way that we want it to. And then our overall 2023 was 3.91, 3.87. And I just remind you again, 5 was strongly agree to those questions, 4 was agree, 3 was average or neutral, 2 was disagree, and 1 was strongly disagree. And they do not have an open-ended question, so we just have the quantitative data. So something that maybe we should look into in the future. We did ask them about opportunities in the survey, so we do have that data for another time. And then we also administered the department surveys. So in the spring of 2024, we had 354 participants. And this most recent time, we had 857 completed surveys. And I did asterisk that for a reason, because there's really no way to tell the number of participants, because people just filled out the survey that was appropriate for them based on what department that they had worked with, that they might have feedback for. So we're definitely going to be looking at how we roll this out next year, so that we have a more consistent participant count, and chunk it more, because the feedback we got is that it was just too much at one time. So we're going to be looking at that. So the department survey is a little different than the engagement survey. It actually has 5 questions, and the 5 questions are here on the screen around accessibility, accuracy, attitude, operations, and timeliness. And then the scale for this survey, 5 would be, you would mark it if very good, 4 would be good, 3 would be average, 2 would be poor, and 1 would be very poor. So a little bit different scale. So overall, this chart shows you in 2024 where we are, we're overall mean, and then 2025, our overall mean. So again, not statistically significant decline, some maintaining, but definitely, you know, looking at where we can make improvements to improve that employee perception of how the departments support their work. The department survey also asked, what's working well, what needs to be improved? Again, with a thematic analysis looking at the top responses. Customer service and support was recorded as a top indicator for what's working well. Words like supportive, responsive, focused on students, responsiveness and communication. Explanations are clear and timely from most departments. Strong leadership and individual excellence. Specific staff recognized for going above and beyond. Positive culture and teamwork, and then process improvements and efficiency. So comments about efforts to improve and take ownership of the needs of our organization. So that acknowledgement that we know things aren't perfect, and we know that we have things that we can do better and that we can be better for all of our stakeholders. And then from the thematic analysis of what needs to be improved, communication issues and gaps. This was the most common. We've already started to do some work around this, and I'll actually get into that when I talk about our analysis to like our next action steps. But just things like most frequent across all of the comments, you know, about delaying communication, conflicting information from different departments, unclear points of contact, words like silos, feeling the departments or schools just aren't having that continuity of customer service and communication. And then timeliness and follow through. Again, I give you some context there of some of the phrases. Leadership, accountability, and visibility, definitely a desire for more focused presence and accountability for staff performance. And then staffing and resource limitations. Again, a lot of comments about the cuts that were made, funding, training and professional development, specific to quality, giving just some feedback on some of the PD that we rolled out this year, called Academic Ambassadors, that we've already made improvements for next year based on that feedback, but that was a highlight of that area. So I'll pause to see if you have any questions about the quantitative data or the qualitative data, and then I'll talk to you about some of the things that we've already started working on to take action on.
Mr. Mikes, did you have any questions on this first part?
Just one of the questions that kind of popped in my mind with the surveys and the numbers of responses. And I don't know, I was just kind of sitting back going, how do we feel about the numbers of responses we're getting for each one? I see students, or I'm sorry, the staff is just over 1,000. The department, I know you already talked about 857, parents 1867. So just in general, based on capturing a certain percentage, do we feel that we're doing well with most of them? We have to push it out a little bit more. Feel like we need to get a better capture a little bit better about the community. So just kind of thoughts on that.
Definitely. The more feedback we have, the more voices we have to represent the experience that Litchfield is providing, the better off that we are. I will say that since I've been here analyzing the survey data, these are some of the highest participant numbers we've had, but definitely an area to always get more voices. The student decline, I really want to address that more. And then also, the staff and family as well, just to make sure that we're capturing, because we have a lot more students, a lot more families, and a lot more staff than that. So, how can we capture everyone so that they can give their perspective?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Studer would say definitely that our numbers, based on years past working with them, the Studer's the research company that kind of started the work in Litchfield, that we've kind of run off from that. Definitely have always been impressed by the numbers over the last few years that I worked with them. But definitely the more voices we can get, the better our data will be.
And sure, and I understand there's a certain number that you want to get within the percentages. That's where I was just
Which is why we pushed out and we kept them open longer.
Okay. Yeah,
So
gotcha.
yes.
Okay. The same surveys are going to be going out this November for the most part.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it. Oh, yeah, the gap question I had for the student thing, but that that could be a big, what Ms. Wallace brought up, that could be a big variable for that.
The only thing I will say, these surveys are a little different in that they don't ask students anything about their mental health, or there's like 8 different categories by law that if you ask kids about any of those categories about their life, you have to get parent permission. This survey does not categorize at that time of survey. So in this case, we don't have to get parent permission to take this survey. So.
All right. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep, no problem.
Mr. Owens?
No questions, thanks.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, I have 2 questions on this first part. My first question is, for the student survey, is that offered to all grades, or are there only certain grades?
Great question. I'm sorry I didn't clarify that. 3rd through 8th grade.
Okay, so how many students would that be as an estimate?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I knew as soon as you asked me that, you were going to ask me that next question. I'll get that for you.
Okay, no problem. Because the numbers don't seem that far off, I think, based on if we talk about 10,000 or so students overall. The decline is just obviously a question which you addressed during the presentation. My second question is really more of a, I think likely a discussion. So I understand the past 2 years, we have done the staff, parent, and student surveys in November. Tell me more about why we're going to keep doing that, because I feel like doing it later in the year, like if I'm a kinder teacher, I've only got a few weeks under my belt and you're asking me for my feedback. Or if I'm an 8th grade parent, I'm giving you feedback really based on probably last year. So tell me more about the timing, if it's possible to change, or if you think the timing, the way it is the best way to go about doing it.
And those are great questions. It's something actually that I've been talking with the principals and department leaders about, specifically the principals, because really it's that those are the surveys that really apply to them more. And we created to have continuity to kind of break up the amount of time that we're surveying, especially our staff, because the department survey and the staff survey coming out at the same time, it would be way too much time for our staff to give us input. And the thought originally behind doing the November is that it's kind of midpoint, and we do it toward, the middle of November. It's midpoint through the year, and principals do use it as kind of a benchmark check to see how things are going, to make any adjustments, to be able to reflect on their scorecard and to make those changes when we come back in January. And then they can survey again, or they can use other key performance indicators to see how things are going with the changes they made. So the thought is if you wait till the end of the year, you really don't have that information and to apply till next year. If we learn more from the first, semester experience, that where that perception is right now, there is an opportunity, I believe, to get some more authentic feedback before maybe parents, staff, and students may get a little end of the year-itis. And not maybe their perception might not be at the same level as their perception halfway through. They've been in the grade level, they've been on their team, they've been at the school. So getting that halfway point is the reason why we've done it. We can definitely change it if it's something that the board, I could bring back to the principals, talk about window of time. We just committed, once we started it in November, we committed to keep it the same timeline. So then, we're like, okay, we gave it in November last year, we gave it in November again this year. So at least the timeline is consistent. But that's the rationale.
Okay, and I understand that. I just think it's worth asking the question because especially some of the parent questions, like getting the positive feedback, like I don't think that we're doing this, but I wouldn't want us to front load positive feedback to get positive survey results and then drop the ball the rest of the year. Same thing with like conferences, those are things, and those communications need to happen throughout the year. So I can see both sides of it, but I do think it'd be worth asking the question because yes, it wouldn't be completely comparable year over year, but I think we would still get some really great feedback that we would be able to take action on, whether it's in the fall or in the spring. So, okay, those are my only questions on this section.
Ms. Wallace, go ahead.
I don't have any questions. Sorry. I had received a notice about kids taking surveys, so I was assuming it was this survey, but
It might have been the Leader in Me survey. There's a Leader in Me survey that Leader in Me schools take. So, and that is something, those questions on that survey do meet the legal criteria, and I actually help with that permission slip, so it probably is.
okay.
Yeah.
So I was mistaken.
valid.
I
Yep.
thought that
That's okay.
with that, I was actually very impressed that many
Yeah.
permission slips had come back. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
That's okay. It's
Um,
confusing. The survey law definitely confusing. So
Yeah.
and maybe the school did send out a permission slip, and because it gets confusing for everyone. Like, do we have to send a permission slip? Do we not? Yeah. So
Gotcha. And then I would just say this year, I am in a different school than I was last year. And this year in the parent pickup line, they were holding QR codes to do the surveys, which I thought was this very smart idea. I know they come to our emails and things, but it was very like, please do this. If you haven't yet, here's the QR code. So thought that was a great idea if that was
yes, brilliant.
from you guys,
Yes.
but
Thanksgiving
all.
feast is also a great opportunity. So.
That is totally true. I was going to
Yeah.
say that, but I would be interested, and I'm sure you can't give me right now, but if we can get it later, the breakdown of how many participants we had per school
Mhm.
for the parents and the students,
Absolutely.
so that we can get a better idea of where this
Mhm.
information is coming from.
For sure.
Mr. Mikes, did you have another thing?
Yeah, I'm not asking to do this. I'm just inquiring to see if it's something that happens. Is there anything from this where we kind of do some random sampling and go deeper dive on it? Like, for instance, you look at the numbers of the parent survey of 1,800 families and you take a, random sample of, not of those people, because you don't know who filled it out, but you take, 30 families and you kind of go a deeper dive on this, or same thing with students, maybe. Anything like that ever happen?
I don't really recognize anything that sticks out to me bringing a parent community together, but I will say there are a couple opportunities that we do a deeper dive. One is a lot of our campuses have student leadership or student advisory, And our principals do bring this data as part of their meetings to go over and talk to the kids. What were the high scores? What were the low scores? And I have the lesson plan that they use in here as well. And they do the same thing with their staff, and they really drill down into, okay, why do you think this is our highest area? Why do you think these other areas are our lowest area? What can we do to bring them back? So it's like a whole little activity. I call it get curious, don't get furious. And so, and then for our parents, site council is a place where our principals do bring survey data. I'm not sure how much they drilled down into the highest and lowest. That's a great idea. And also we do have our safety committee that we did organize as a community. We have a community safety committee that just started meeting. We're going to actually drill down into some other topics, but definitely maybe, getting more information from parents, maybe doing that same lesson plan with site council even, because it does have representation for each campus. So,
Thank you.
One more thing, to piggyback on what Ms. Moran was saying, I actually like the idea of you guys doing the survey when you do it because of the fact that I do feel that the feedback you get from like our 8th grade parents, for instance, they feel like it means something then versus when they're leaving, what does it matter? It's not going to impact my kid anymore. But if I'm telling you something that's an issue or good right now, you can do something about it while I'm still here. So I kind of like the idea of that. And obviously we wouldn't want to do it any earlier, but I do think it's a good timing right now. So
yeah, it's tricky. So yeah, for sure. All right, so I'm going to highlight just some of these action steps we started right off out the gate as soon as we were able to look at these results, and some of these are going to be in process moving into next year. So I'll just quickly go through, and when I'm done, definitely if you want me to give you more details on a certain one, definitely ask. So as I shared with you, each site and department rolled out their results with their teams, including their student advisory or student leadership groups using that lesson plan. And then continue to focus on the PLC process and the stages of quality PLC and providing that feedback. Some of the work we did this year to really give that feedback and to really identify what the best professional development to bring forward for this year has actually come from those visits. Continue structures for What's Up with Wednesday. And I didn't really highlight this, but definitely there were positive comments about having that time to plan and that organization and clear expectations, which is really what that clear expectation, if you remember, the staff said that they really liked the clear expectation and the vision and what's working well. And then continue scorecard work at the sites and departments for those goals and action steps, allowing staff to really be part of that process. We really switched that it's not a principal scorecard, it's not a department lead scorecard, it's the site scorecard, it's the department scorecard. So there's more ownership, not just buy-in to that continuous improvement cycle. Continuing to conduct those annual compensation studies, so we make sure that we're giving our employees a fair wage. Review and revise our performance-based pay, as you know. We've done that work since November, complete as part of our bigger budget process. Provide educational opportunities to staff and stakeholders on how staffing formulas are applied. This is where that aha moment is maybe we haven't done enough to explain why you don't have this staff, and maybe we're assuming that maybe some of the principals or departments are explaining that, but maybe during apple pie tour or in just integrating that and explaining why those funds aren't here anymore, and how we're staffing schools and how it is staffed consistently and fairly across all schools and departments. Strengthen communication from district to site and departments. We've already done this. We asked our leaders and admin council to propose what are the best practices, because we say communication, but what does that mean? Like you said, that's something that needs to be improved, but what does it look like? So if we improve communication, what's the dream, right? What's the dream communication look like? What are the problems? What are the barriers? And so we do have a survey that we did have admin council to drill down into that particular area. And so we have those results, and we have it on admin cabinet this summer to do work around it. And then take action to improve technology infrastructure. I know Ruben and his team have been just working tirelessly to do this, from our internet connection stability, those new staff laptops, replacements of the projectors, for all the school sites. And that's actually not even over in the next few years. That's like soon, like now, this summer. And then using bond dollars to continue to increase safety measures with the vestibule work and the video cameras, project management team to provide timely updates on a variety of projects. So one of the things we found is that departments knew how projects were moving along, but our staff didn't necessarily. So our department leads have done a great job providing, even email updates or in our linking leaders to say, hey, this is where your school's at with the vestibule. This is where your school's at with cameras, just so they feel they're in the know to help improve that communication across the organization, not just at a site. And then conduct an analysis of discipline data, which we will be doing that in our study session in a few weeks. And then evaluate how the new matrix implementation is going and any revisions, which we brought the revisions today based on all that feedback. And then analyze data around threats and police response to make any recommendations to our standard operating procedure. There's a specific new law about mandated reporting that we're going to need to make sure that we do trainings on, and that we make sure we bring our staff up to where they need to be to follow that new law. And then we've been working on the athletic standard operating procedure for non-paid volunteer coaches, reviewing and revising nursing standard operating procedures. And this bullet item is kind of where, when we talk about communication breakdowns, or maybe things aren't making sense or conflicting situations, the lack of maybe some standard operating procedures around those two areas really does impact a lot of different people, the nurse's office and athletics. So adoption of social studies curriculum for 6th through 8th grade. We're going to get that work started soon. Communication improvements, so rebranding, creating our new mascots for those schools that are applicable, new website, and then new internal and external dashboard, which we're hoping that communication element, if you can go to an internal or external dashboard and learn more about Litchfield by school, by attendance, by discipline, by letter grade, like all these things that you're going to feel like you're more in the know and you belong, right? You belong to Litchfield and you know what's going on. And then our safety road shows as preventative, educating students around boundaries, consent, for their own personal space, as well as threats, how, just making sure our kids understand when they make these threats that it might be they're making a threat versus posing a threat, but they're still making a threat and disrupting the education of others. So just really making sure that they're educated to understand. SEPTED walkthroughs to continue to look at our campus to work on that crime prevention. Each campus started a site safety committee this year. And then we also started our community safety committee that will launch. We met once this year, and we're going to launch every month starting next year. And then increase admin cab visibility by establishing a specific purpose of support. So one of the things that when I met with each leader, and we all did this with our respective departments, is, what we want to be visible for you. We're hearing you. You want us there, and we're feeling we are visible, and it's one of those things you feel like, what's my purpose of being there? How can I help you? And so really identifying what that purpose is and really making that a coaching or a mentoring opportunity. And then academic ambassador data, we've made some revisions to that to make sure that it has choice and it addresses the feedback concerns that we received from the field. Partnership with Grand Canyon University to offer classified staff professional development. You saw in what needs to be improved about professional development. So making sure we're tailoring things so that we're also offering unique opportunities for our classified staff. Development of department standard operating procedures that will be shared on an internal website for all staff. So we're designing all these standard operating procedures based on, what the steps are for any type of procedure that we have across Litchfield, but housing that in a place where any employee can go to and by department and by task can look up that procedure and know and be in the know and understand what the steps are. So really hoping that might help the gaps in those silos as well. Because if I'm in one department, I can pull up that procedure and I can help that employee know, okay, I can do this part for you, but I'm going to collaborate with this other department to get the whole thing done. And then implement new Litchfield evaluation framework, beginning with the leaders in 2025-26, and then educators and classified staff in 26-27. And then training and working around cross-department customer service to remove silos and improve quality and timeliness of response to action. So that goes hand in hand with those operating procedures and us all understanding what each department's role in getting something done so that we can collaborate and not just say, well, that's that department or that's that department, but how can I help you facilitate to get who you need on the job and who you need to talk to, or maybe talk to them for you. And then complete work to redesign the report cards to provide a clearer picture of student progress based on standards. That work is still in progress. It's taking longer than we anticipated, but it's really good work and it's worth getting it right, not rushing it. And then provide a login to 3rd through 5th grade parents to parent view to be able to view grades at any point during the quarter. Right now, 6th through 8th students are only ones that have that parent view. So what we're hoping by this is maybe that will help that communication gap that we're hearing from parents, how they're not receiving positive praise or positive outcomes about their students because they don't have access to their ongoing grades. And maybe if they knew how well their kids were doing, or if there were concerns, that might increase that, because that particular score on the survey has been low every single year for every single school. And they have done all kinds of different strategies and it doesn't seem to be improving. So project management team provide a timeline, identify funding source to make improvements to facilities, including bathrooms and other needs. Use feedback to increase student and staff opportunities. In those same surveys, and we'll be bringing this back another time, but we surveyed our staff and our kids and our families to learn what they want as opportunities, either for their kids or as an employee. And so we're going to be looking at those survey results to determine what we can do, our next action steps. That's where probably the classified stuff came from, that professional development, is that was an opportunity that was identified. And then roll out the Litchfield Learner I Can statements. That will be coming back to you actually to present those in a few meetings to build that Litchfield learner from grade to grade. And then our new mission, believe, for 2025 and beyond, that we're going to believe, belong, and we're going to become the Litchfield learner. So I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Mikes, did you have any questions?
I don't have any specific questions. My comment is wow, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of movement that's happening. And if anybody's listening to know, just I hate to say snapshot because there's a lot of stuff on here, but just on an example, this is an example along with all the site visits that we go on, and anything that comes across us is in regards to data. Litchfield doesn't collect data for the sake of just saying we are collecting data, or we're sending a survey out to give the perception that we're hearing you. We are listening. We're breaking the information down. We are making action statements, steps for it, elaborate planning from it, anywhere from the student data for achievement to all this stuff that was just listed here. And I just want to commend you guys for that. It's really great. It's refreshing to see the focus and the amount of stuff that we continue to do. And there really is no such thing as summer vacation for schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Owens?
Yeah, exactly like Board Member Mike's just mentioned, we got the information and now what do you do with it? And so obviously steps have been taken and continuous steps will be taken to just try to improve every stakeholder's, just the impact we have on our stakeholders in a more positive way. So that way, students, parents, staff feel better about Litchfield. And so thank you and good luck with everything because we appreciate it.
Ms. Moran?
Yeah, this is a lot. I will start with the suggestion as a board member that I would appreciate. I felt a little overwhelmed by this presentation because there was so much information in one spot. I would, if we're going to continue doing the surveys in November, I would love to see this data from those surveys earlier because I would attempt to absorb some of that and then pay attention to those things as we're going throughout the year. So for example, when I heard about or read about the disappointment in the ESSER funds that were gone, as a board member, we've talked about that ad nauseum up here about the ESSER funds and why we made changes to the staffing model and all of that. I understand that this was information is from November and that our folks made some changes to the presentations they gave at schools and things like that to try to give more clarity around that issue. And so I think some of those communication issues have already been resolved. So the timeliness of the information for board members, I think, is important. But aside from that, I am very appreciative of the both reactive and proactive approach to the action steps. So we're reacting to the data that we're getting and we're, implementing that continuous improvement model. But some of the things that we are putting into action are really proactive based on what we've seen and what we anticipate we might see in the future based on what we already know. So there was a point in time that in general, as a district, we were 90% reactive and very little proactive. And I see that shift happening over time. And I see us getting more and more toward the proactive and trying to react to things before they become issues. Also, I'm very happy to see that the parent perception numbers actually went up. I mean, any sort of increase once you're already in the fours is amazing. So I think that definitely needs to be touted and appreciated. Other than that, I mean, 29 action steps. And I know that this is not everything that you're doing in response to the surveys, because this is more district level, but I know each of our principals and site leaders are taking their feedback and taking more action steps, not only for their campus, but potentially specifically to different departments and things like that. So I feel overwhelmed just because it's so much information, and this is the heart of a lot of the improvements that we're making. But I'm so glad that, to Board Member Mike's point, we're actually doing something about the information. This is not just an FYI. This is how parents and students and staff feel. This is, okay, we want to make your experience as good as possible. And so we're going to actually do something about what you're telling us. So that is amazing. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
I don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said, but I agree. I see why you're presenting now, so you can show us everything that you have done based on that. But I agree with Ms. Moran. We would love to even see it without all of the action steps earlier, and then maybe again later with all of the action steps. But again, 29 action steps is a big undertaking. And for anyone watching, like, this is the importance of doing the surveys, because they are read and they are trying to improve every area that we can improve. And I'm just glad to be a part of a district that wants to get fives everywhere, because high fours and mid fours are great scores also. So that's awesome.
I don't have any questions, but I agree with everyone else that I appreciate that we're not just checking a box here, because everywhere does surveys, but most people don't do anything with it really. So I appreciate that we are looking at this, we're evaluating it, and we're using it to guide the decisions that we're making, and that we're really trying to find what are the overall themes that we're seeing, and not just, because we know that when we do these surveys, people will complain. They will use these ways to say they're tiny grievances, right? But if we notice that there's a trend of things that are happening, then we know that that's something we should look at. And as well as if we notice there's a trend of things that people are saying are good, we know these are things that we should definitely be highlighting and, celebrating the successes that we have as well. So thank you to your guys' team. This is just like a tiny, I feel like this is like a grain of sand. It's like 29 things, which is a ton, but yet in the things that you guys are doing every day, all the time, it feels to me like this is a grain of sand. And that's just a testament to how much you guys are doing all the time to make this be a great district. So thank you guys again for all of your hard work.
Thank you.
We are moving on. Now we are going to move on to reports. We will hear first from Dr. Davidson.
All right. Thank you, President Zinum, members of the board and staff community. Certainly summer is going quick. We are busy reflecting on this past year, 24-25, and planning for the positive changes for 25-26 school year, even more than 29 of those items. So a lot of work is happening. Wanted to give a shout out to our summer school staff, our leader of summer school, Samantha Halapico, and over 20 certified and classified staff, as well as over 200 students over at Barbara Roby Elementary School. Just doing great things, having a lot of fun. Classrooms are smaller right now, and teachers and students this morning just were in great spirits, and just had a lot of fun being there for a little bit this morning, as well as want to give a shout out to our food services team. We are providing both breakfast and lunch to our community over at that elementary school. So it's just a nice thing we can do, and I'm very pleased to see our staff doing that for our team out there. Another big giant shout out to Dr. Stone's operational team, facilities, technology. You know, we have, as many of you know, the office transformations on behalf of our safety initiative, and just all the work happening on behalf of teachers and their classroom technology. And bottom line, everybody is doing hard work to prepare for the opening of schools just here in a few short weeks, believe it or not. But as I end, we please, for all of us listening, all of us in the room, enjoy a little bit of free time we have coming this summer, get in some vacations, and certainly to our board members as well, relax a little bit, because we know there's a lot to do in this next school year, as Dr. Doozy stated in her presentation, as we all strive to become the Litchfield learner. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we will move on to reports from our board members, and I will start with Mr. Mikes.
I was looking for my report out and trying to process. I was like, when was the last time we actually had a regular board meeting where we reported out? And what I think I realized is we had been to promotion ceremonies and hadn't had a chance to talk about any of that stuff that we experienced. So anyways, it was just kind of a little shock on how long it's been for that. But so I attended a couple promotion ceremonies at the end of the year for Thomas L. Heck and Belen Soto. They were amazing ceremonies. It was awesome to see the process for each of those schools to go through that. Saw great Pride Awards ceremony celebrating our great teachers and staff in the district that was put on by our great foundation for all that stuff. And so I didn't have a chance to talk about that. So it was really great seeing a bunch of those kids launch off into going into high school. So that was exciting. And just the last thing I'd say is, you know, I think about summer and we think about vacation and all the stuff that might be going on, but it's a reminder of all the stuff that continues to go on here during the summer. Everybody's full time with everything, and I appreciate it. So that's it.
Mr. Owens?
Yeah, I similarly was trying to figure out when was the last time we did our reports, and it was before promotions. And so I was lucky enough to participate in Verado Heritage's promotion, that 8th grade class, and Principal Noche's well-oiled machine, and that promotion, a lot of proud parents. And then the next day, got to do Verado Middle School, Principal Peduano's last graduating class before he moved on. And so it's just always exciting. 8th grade, you know, is just one step. It's a promotion, right, to high school, and that's what we want to make sure our kids are prepared for. And there were a lot of kids, I think they were excited and ready to go to high school, and there's some that probably maybe a little more scared. But high school is a lot of fun. I hope the 8th graders are enjoying their summer before school in high school starts, because it's a big change. I hope all the families are enjoying summer right now. Appreciate the staff that, you know, doesn't necessarily get summers off. I know teachers are doing a lot over the summer too. That's not just off, but yeah, it seems like we've been together a lot since our last report. So that's it for me.
Ms. Moran?
Yes, this month I did most of the just usual things, going to the meetings, and I had my usual check-ins with Dr. Davidson. But I think the most important thing that I did was participate in the superintendent review yesterday. So that's our opportunity to give Dr. Davidson some feedback on his performance. And we had very productive, respectful conversations regarding that. So as a board, we've all been working really hard to fulfill our three primary responsibilities this year, which the first is to set policy. You may or may not be aware that we have done a full policy review this year, and we'll be implementing that going into the next school year. Our second most primary responsibility is to approve the budget, and that's pretty much ongoing between the revisions that we do during the current year based on activity that's happening, working through the feedback that we receive and the funding that we receive to figure out how we're going to make everything work going into the next year. So we have planning, we have revisions, and we have the adoption, which will be coming up as well. And then employing the superintendent is our third most important task that we do. So we renewed the contract for Dr. Davidson for 3 years, and we completed his review and feedback for this current year. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done as a board, and even more proud of the work toward continuous improvement that's evidenced by our entire staff. Dr. Doozy is not the only person working to achieve those 29 to-dos. It takes a village for sure. So I hope that everyone can take some time to rest and connect over the summer. I think we all have some similar sentiments about that. For me, rest and connection happen when I am present and mindful, and gratitude is one of my favorite ways to ground myself in the present. But a gratitude practice is nothing new. So I'm going to close with lyrics from a song I grew up with, Count Your Blessings, which is a hymn by Johnson Oatman Jr. Verse 2. Are you ever burdened with a load of care? Does the cross seem heavy you are called to bear? Count your many blessings. Every doubt will fly, and you will be singing as the days go by. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
I don't like following Kim. She's so eloquent and ends with songs. But I had the honor of attending the Pride Awards since the last board meeting, which was really, really fun. And it was really fun to see the student scholarships that were given in addition to honoring the teachers and staff from the schools this year. We then were able to attend the retirement party for the retiring staff, which we didn't have a ton of retiring staff this year, but it was also great to see that a lot of our teaching staff that retired are coming back to work under the program that is provided for them, and how wonderful that is for them. Yesterday, I was not able to attend 8th grade graduations this year, but I did attend Mabel Pageant's kindergarten graduation, and that was the cutest thing I've seen all year in school. Their little songs would make you cry even if you didn't know these children, because they were that cute and that sweet. So that was awesome. And then I was also able to attend the superintendent review yesterday, which it was a really nice time to go over all of the great work that is happening here and that Dr. Davidson is doing, and to be able to be a part of that and review a year well done. So that's all for me.
It hasn't actually been that long. It's been like a month, but it's the end of the school year, so there's always like 100 things that people are doing. I was able to attend the Pride Awards, which was really nice. That's a great event that that the foundation puts on for our teachers, and they have really done a great job of revamping how they do that. It was nice to be able to see all of the teachers and staff members and our principals that were recognized. So thank you to the foundation for all of their hard work in the fundraising they do and then putting on that event. It's a lot of work, and we really appreciate that they honor our people that way. I love the addition of the scholarships for the graduating seniors. I'm excited to see that continue in the future. I also was able to attend the Palm Valley Elementary School Talent Show. They invited us to come, and I watched, and we had some amazingly talented kids. I was blown away by one of the students that played the guitar and sang for us. And there was students that were doing raps for us. And there were lots of gymnasts and lots of piano players. But that was super fun to watch all those kids get up there. I would have been terrified. I never would have been able to do that. But they were fantastic. The rapper that did the Eminem rap songs, like not the rap, they changed the lyrics, might have been my favorite. We also were able to attend the retirement ceremony. This is a great event to put on for our retirees. Thank you to the revamping we've done to that as well, as a great way to honor those people that have served our district for so long. It takes a village, and we are happy that some of those people are going to find their way back to us in their same capacity through a different program, or else they're going to come and volunteer. That's what I've told everybody that's not actually coming to work for us anymore, that they need to come back. I attended the Aspire graduation, which was very exciting. This is our first group of staff that have gone through and done the whole Aspire program that we do here with some of our teachers that we're able to help them get their teaching certification so that they can then come and be official teachers and teach for us in the future. That was a very nice event. They did a great job, and I appreciate them putting that together and honoring those individuals that were recognized that night. I also attended the Wigwam Creek Middle School, Western Sky Middle School, and White Tank's 8th grade promotion ceremonies. Every school is different, so it's very fun to see how they do those events. I've had the opportunity to be at almost all the schools now through my years here, and it's just really fun to see how each principal takes the spin on 8th grade promotion. There was a good recommendation, Dr. Davidson, you should look into it in the future, have it all in one day at a high school, get it all one and done for everybody, but just think about that in the future. I also attended the Palm Valley Elementary School Unified Sports Basketball and Cheer event. It was very fun to watch all the kiddos playing basketball. Some of them were really, really good, actually, like really good basketball players. Others were just so cute and having a great time. And the little cheerleaders were adorable, and I loved watching them. Thank you to Ms. Jordan, who put that on and works that program. I would love to see that grow. I'm hoping that we are able to see how that will grow in the future in our campuses, especially love to see it at our middle schools. I attended our special board meeting we did have in May, and then also the superintendent review, which is one of the most important things that we do as board members. We take that job very seriously. It was a very productive conversation, and I appreciate all of the board members' time that they gave so that we were able to have that productive conversation at the meeting yesterday. And with that, I am done because that was a lot of things. I'm excited to see what's happening in the future. I hope everybody's enjoying some summertime as well. But we all know that most of our teachers are doing their own getting ready for next year, even though it's their summertime. And obviously, our admin team, you heard, is doing a lot of work. So thank you to everybody that is still giving their time, whether it's because they're paid or they're just doing it on their own time because they love their students. And with that, that's the end of my report. Thank you to everybody that sent in our reports from the administrators, and we are good to go. I think that's all for our meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Having a motion for Mr. Mikes and a second for Mr. Owens, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Mikes,
Yay.
Mr. Owens,
Yay.
Ms. Moran,
Yay.
Ms. Wallace.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes.